Has it also happened to you that you got back your exam and you saw all your mistakes, and majority of them were very silly mistakes that if you avoided them, you could have scored better grade? If so, this video is for you because I will introduce a couple of tips that will prevent these silly mistakes happening. Because of course this has happened to me many times that I made these mistakes, and with these tips and tricks I'm sure you will perform better next time. The very first thing is to focus. And why you need to focus? Because when you don't focus, then you make those silly mistakes. So a really important thing is that you focus just on one question at a time. Really concentrate on the question in front of you. Do not think about the rest of the paper, because it can be overwhelming to get the exam. You see 20, 25 questions. Some of them have many marks, and you're a little bit anxious just from the beginning when you start thinking in this very numerical way. But when you look at one question at a time and you really focus on that one in front of you, I can assure you that your focus is going to be much sharper, which means you're going to be less likely to make stupid mistakes. So really focus on that one question in front of you, forget everything else, and then move on, and then focus on just the next one. The second tip is my favorite, and it is to read the question 3 times, or at least twice. Even when you think you know what the question is asking, read it again, because there is very high chance that you interpreted it slightly differently, which can result in silly mistakes. The problem with answering the question immediately after you read it is that you might miss those small words such as not. When you miss these small words, you might miss out on many marks because you answer a slightly different question. Sometimes you can get some marks from it, but it is a silly mistake you don't want to make. And also apply the first tip, that really focus on what you're reading. Read it with an intention of focusing on just that one question several times. And only after you're 100% sure that you know what the question is asking, then start constructing your answer. Another thing that can help you with better understanding of a question is to underline the keyword in each question. Because some questions can be really simple, recall the memory which says state or name. These type of questions really go very superficial and they just want you to recall an information, so just write down what you learned. It's simple memorizing. On the other hand, there are questions such as analyze or evaluate or weight up 2 sides of an argument. In these type of questions you need to go a little bit deeper, which means you need to apply your knowledge to a problem which is presented. And in this situation it's really useful to see that word highlighted. Anytime you go deeper than just state or name, you need to use some sort of analysis or deeper linking of concepts rather than just rewriting your textbook. Crucial step after this is to plan your answer before you put some words on the paper. This is something I struggled with, and I think I still struggle with, is that I read a question and I'm like, aha, let's go into it. I know this very well, but without a clear structure, you can start something and then you realize that you missed some key concepts that were supposed to be mentioned before you answer, and then it's very difficult to just draw arrows and trying to correct your answer so it makes sense. Therefore, it's better to be strategic and plan in bullet points what you're going to talk about. This is especially the case for the analysis and explanation questions, not the really memorizing facts type of questions, state or name, as I mentioned. This doesn't need to take long. This can take 30 seconds, but you will see the points you want to mention. You can then look at your bullet points and see if there is something missing and then add it to that, and then start to constructing your answer step by step based on these bullet points, rather than just putting everything together and it's one mess. And then it's also more difficult for the examiner to mark your paper, and examiners don't really like messy answers, and even if you had something correct in your answer, they're less likely to give you those points because it doesn't make logically sense. You are on a battlefield right now and you really want to provide a clear, structured answer that makes logical sense, and when you just start writing whatever comes to your mind first, it's not gonna be the case. This preparation before you start answering doesn't take long, and especially when you had a really good preparation before. I talk about exam preparation in more depth in this video, so you can check it out if you have not seen it yet. After you get your paper in front of you during the exam, skim through the whole paper before you start answering the first question. The reason for this is that your brain will subconsciously start to plan answering that question. This is not for you to throw you off, that you see a question you are not really sure about and now you're going to start stressing. No, this is for you to see the range of questions and also to give you time to think about how you're going to answer it. Whereas if you just start from question 1 and you work your way through it and then you find something very difficult, you will need more time to think about it. Whereas when you saw the question at the beginning of your paper, then you're more likely to come up to the idea how to answer it as you work through your paper. Because there can be questions that can lead you to the correct answer for that difficult question. So as you work through your paper, you will identify key information that you want to include in that difficult question. And it's not going to be difficult at all in the end. Really important thing is to not answer every question in the order as it is in the paper. The reason for this is that the paper gets gradually more difficult as you work through it. You might have noticed that at the end there are usually questions with more marks, and if you start with easy questions and you get stuck on the easy 2-mark questions, that by the time you come to the 6 or 9 markers, you might not have sufficient time to finish them. This can be really frustrating, especially if you studied hard and then you run out of time and you have no way to show the examiner that you really know this. And to prevent this, you just need to start with questions that carry more marks. The questions that are more difficult and more complex, at least start with the planning of the answer and then go back to the easy one. So by the time you come to that difficult question, you have some sort of plan. So really at this point, it's important to be strategic and to play on your strength and to know what you're good at, what you're less good at, and plan accordingly so it doesn't happen that you run out of time. Don't let the exam throw you off when you see a question that you immediately don't know how to answer. That's the point of the exam, that the questions are difficult and make you think and really see if you understood the concept. So do not worry if it doesn't immediately come to your mind how to answer a question. That's the point, to make you think. So do not worry. When you start with the focus from the beginning of this video as the most important component of preventing silly mistakes, I'm sure you will do well, even when the exam is difficult. The next thing that really is closely connected to the focus I mentioned first is to be able to zone out from the environment you're in. There is always going to be someone who is going to be making some noise. During one of my mocks, half of the class was really sick, so it was constant coughing and there was no way you could concentrate. So this is really something to practice as you do the papers, is to be able to concentrate in a way that you really forget about everyone in the room and you really solely focus on the paper. And when you manage to do this, you are really not going to be distracted by anything and you will not be able to influence the exam conditions on that day. So it all falls on your ability to focus and being able to put away every distraction, even though it's present, but you'll trick your brain into thinking that everything is perfect. I know it's not easy and it doesn't always work, but when you practice it more and more, it's gonna be fine. You can work on this by intentionally putting yourself to situations where you are working in a little bit busier environment. Let's say a common area, it's usually busier. Do not let the people or the environment distract you from anything you're working on. Moving on to my next point, and that is to not be fooled by an easy question. When our brain recognizes something familiar, we tend to immediately start answering it and be like, yes, this is something we know. But sometimes the easier questions have some nuance, a tweak that makes you feel like you know it. But when you read it carefully, which links to my previous point, you find out that it's not as easy as it looked like at the beginning. So every time your brain tells you that something is easy, be cautious and read the question again to identify the detail that your brain is probably overlooking. I left my favorite tip as the last one, and that is to smile. Because when you smile, you create positive emotions. I know that exams are stressful, but when you smile and when you approach them with really relaxed approach, it's gonna be good. I'm talking about relaxed approach during the exam day, right? Not for the preparation. You should really make a plan and be ready for your exams. But when it comes to the day D, you really were working very hard, then just enjoy the day. So rather than being strenuous, try to relax and let all the anxiety go. When you smile, you create positive energy, not just for yourself, but also all your friends that are sitting the exams with you. And you're all gonna be fine. That's the end of today's video. I really hope you like it. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Let me know in the comments what's the silliest mistake you have done during your exam. And I'll be looking forward to seeing you next time. Bye!